Hi guys, welcome back. Trying to get my picture in here. Let me see if I can't find it. Oh, here I am. Get all this stuff I have. Okay, so here I am going over one of the FRQs that maybe was a little bit more challenging. And these bank ones are difficult. I will say the more you practice, the more you get used to kind of the language of the text, the more clear it'll become. There's not a whole lot like wrenches and curveballs that they can throw at you. So once you understand it, you should be in good shape. So let's just go together. This is Mi Tierra's bank. It's just a fictional made up bank. You'll notice it's a bank balance sheet. Keyword is balanced. The assets and liabilities must be balanced. And they are. In this case, the liabilities equals $1,000. $100,000. The assets equals $100,000. Now, it's $100,000 in demand deposits. And what you want to think of that is money that's in a checking account. Okay? So there are two types of reserves. And if I can the two types of reserves are excess and required. Now, if in a test it just says how much are in reserves, you got to factor in both required and excess. Here they broke it down. So number A or letter A is asking, what is the reserve requirement? Well, we should note the equation for that is the required reserves over demand deposits, in which case, just writing it out, 10K over 100K, and that'll get you 10%. The required reserve ratio is 0.1 or 10%. I'm just getting used to this whiteboard app. So that's 10% there. Assume that Luis withdraws $5,000 in cash from his checking account. So if he withdraws $5,000 in cash, this is no longer $100,000, it's $95K, right? Well, do we currently have a balanced bank sheet? And we don't. No, $95K it says, sorry. No, there's $100,000 in assets and only $95,000 in liabilities. So we've got to get $5,000 from assets. Well, where do we get $5,000? It immediately comes from the excess reserves. Boop, excess reserves goes to Luis. Whammo bammo. Thank you, ma'am. We've got a bank balance sheet. Well, by how much will Mi Tierra's reserves change based on the withdrawal? Well, again, reserves, if they ask reserves, you got to factor in both required and excess. So how much will change? It's the 5K, right? 5,000 is no longer in excess. Previously the reserves were 15,000, right? Required was 10, excess was 5,000, 15,000. Now, since the excess reserves are gone, it's only the 10K. How much is going to change? 5,000. That's the answer to 5 BI. What is the initial effect of the withdrawal from the N1 money measure of the money supply? Well, when Luis had 5,000 in demand deposits, was that considered M1 money? Yes, it is. Demand deposits are M1 money. So they're just changing the style or format. There's a word, I can't think of it. How the format of it. It's from demand deposits to actual currency, cash. It's still $5,000. There's no change. You're just changing the type of M1 money. So there you go for that. BII, the answer is there's no change, right? No change. And you would have to explain. And the word is consistency. The consistency is just demand deposits is M1 money. Actual currency is M1 money. You're just changing it from that to that. As a result of the withdrawal, what is the new value of excess reserves? Well, you see that excess reserves has been zeroed out, right? So initially, people want to think that it's $0 in excess reserves, but that's not the case. Because here's why. Do we currently have a bank balance sheet? Well, yes, there's 95,000 in one, 10,000 plus 85,000 in assets does equal 95,000. So do we have a bank balance? Yes. The problem is, though, should there be 10,000 in required reserves? Well, what is my reserve ratio? Well, going back to A, my reserve ratio is 10%. Well, how much is demand deposits, right? It's the required reserves is 10% of demand deposits. How much are in demand deposits? Well, 95,000. So what's 10% of 95,000? Well, it's not 10,000, it's 9,500, right? So there should be only 9,500 in required reserves. So what happens to that other 500 that's left over? That 500 goes to excess reserves. So for III, as a result of the withdrawal, what is the new value of excess reserves? Come on, $500, right? The leftover. Don't forget the required reserves, the amount here is going to change if we change demand deposits. So it's the $500. So trying to write 500 here. There you go. Assume that the next day we're below the reserve ratio. We know that there's two places that banks can go to get back to the reserve requirement to get to that 10%. They can borrow from other banks or they can borrow from the Federal Reserve. The other banks are going to charge the federal funds rate, whereas the Federal Reserve is going to charge the discount rate. And some of you are asking, Mr. Brady, I'm still struggling with this. Where can I get additional practice? Great question. So if you go to 4.3, or if you go to ACDC Econ, the website is up above. Go to students, macro FRQ topics. Cool. Mr. Clifford has organized every single FRQ that's been given out since 2018 and before 2018, and he's kind of organized them. Bank balance sheets are the ones that you want to go over. So you'll notice it was question number 2 in FRQ, bank balance sheet right here. Well, what year was that? Just going up, 2016. So if I would search 2016 macro AP FRQ, they should have the scoring guidelines here, but as well as the essay questions. So hopefully you see this. And you can just go macro 2016. They have them all for you. You just got to search the internet. You got to do a little searching. I want the questions. I don't necessarily want what the students said. I can just go forward. Okay, number 2. Yes, there is a bank balance sheet FRQ. I could practice with that. If I wanted to know the answers, they have the scoring guidelines here for you too. So hopefully that helps you. All the best to you guys. Thank you for paying attention. Hit me up during office hours this week in the Classroom Cafe if you're struggling. I'm going to go over any unit FRQ you want to make up, you want to improve. I'm with you. It isn't required for you to show up from 10 to 12. We can find another time. If you've got classes that teachers are requiring, show up to that. Thursday and Friday, 10 to 12, there's an opportunity in there, hopefully, should you want to come in. Hopefully this helps. I'll try to record some more videos with me going over it. Maybe I'll try to get a better whiteboard too. All the best. Thank you guys. Hopefully this helped.